What's up everybody, KleverKrok back once again for another league draft analysis viability video. Today we will be kind of covering two Pokemon that are obviously very similar, so I didn't think we needed to make two separate videos for this, so hopefully it'll still be thorough. I think it will be because they both serve pretty good purposes. Now these two, Nidoking and Nidoqueen, these guys are, in my opinion, some of the strongest offensive Pokemon in League format, simply because they crush walls. They're a wall breaker for sure. Sheer Force, Life Orb, definitely. The other part is they just have such a wide move pool that they can utilize their Sheer Force ability with. So, you know, right now we're looking at a set specifically that's probably one of the more standard sets, to be honest, for Nidoking, where it's Life Orb, Sheer Force, and 2 stab moves, and Sludge Wave and Earth Power, and then Flamethrower and Ice Beam. You can also put Thunderbolt and other random things on there. Also, if you look at the stats real quick for Nidoking, you can see that Nidoking has a really good attack, and I mean, what's surprising is their stats aren't all that great. So it's got a subpar speed, it's not all that fast, it's got okay HP, its attack is decent, its special attack is meh, so it's like kind of surprising that like with Sheer Force and Life Orb it actually is a really strong special attacker. But with that attack you could also do some other shenanigans, which we'll talk about. Next we have Nidoqueen. So you can tell that the difference here is that it takes 10 attack and puts it in defense, and 10 special attack, puts it in special defense, and then takes, I think, 9 points out of speed, yeah, and puts it in HP. So it's a bulkier, slower set, but honestly, you'd probably think, like I have for most of the time that I've thought about these two, is that obviously Nidoqueen just doesn't hit nearly as hard. And I mean, yes, that's kind of true, but it also, it's max special attack at modest, since you're not going to be outspeeding things with the subpar speed anyways. It actually is, I think, equivalent with Life Orb, Sheer Force, you know, being on this and the Nidoking I'm about to compare it to, is about the same stat-wise as a timid Nidoking. And, you know, that's pretty cool. So, like, it just depends on really what you want. I mean, Nidoqueen is bulkier, it can take more hits. You can make it offensive and it still hits hard. Nidoking obviously hits a little bit harder with more speed, but it's more frail in all regards. So we'll go ahead and take a look. We already we're talking about, you know, running the typical like special sweeper set with max speed. So you could do modest or timid. Excuse me. And as you notice, it's not like the best special attack, which, you know, even modest, it's okay. Like it's not bad, but it's not very good. But like Life Orb gives that 30% boost to damage. Sheer Force gives 30% boost to moves with secondary abilities that usually have something to do with a % chance of an effect. So he's got his 2 stab moves have really strong special attacking moves with second things that get triggered by Sheer Force to make it stronger. And also, because of Sheer Force, it doesn't take Life Orb damage on those Sheer Force triggered moves. Even Flamethrower, even Ice Beam. Let's see what else. Body Slam if you really wanted to. Blizzard. Thunderbolt's one. Ice Punch, so you can even run him physical. So let's actually talk about that. So you can actually, the cool thing about the wide move pool that both Nidoqueen and Nidoking get is, first of all, they both learn Taunt, which is nice. They both learn Sucker Punch, which is actually pretty cool. It's always nice to have an option for priority. I just put Thunder Punch on there for another offensive move. So this is kind of a Stealth Rock setter, aka like counter lead, so you can like pick the amount of speed. If they're gonna have a slower setup Pokemon, you can taunt, put up rocks, you know, you'll have priority and other things. So you can handle most threats with that too. Poison and Ground is a really good typing because that means it's immune to electric and to getting poisoned, which is pretty nice. And then, so that's kind of a setup set. Obviously Thunder Punch can be changed for pretty much anything, and I chose to do attack instead of special. You could definitely go the special attack route as well. Now, Some people like to run it with a Choice Scarf or Choice Specs. I personally don't, because you lose a lot of power without that Life Orb. But it's definitely doable, and it's obviously like an option that you could use, especially in the draft format. It's nice again to have options. So you can run, you can outspeed most things with a Modest Nature, which is nice. So you can still get as much power without a Life Orb out as you can. Run physical or special, of course. So yeah, you've got that, and then this is just the physical set that you could run. Like obviously Earthquake and Sucker Punch would still deal Life Orb damage to you because they don't have a secondary effect, but Poison Jab and Fire Punch, or Thunder Punch or Ice Punch, whatever other moves for that matter that have a secondary effect will get that Sheer Force boost, whereas these two will not. But they're still powerful moves, and again, priority is always something to consider. If you want, I think there's also, if you're wanting to go with a way to not take damage, Bulldoze will do less damage than Earthquake in the end, but it does get it triggers Sheer Force, so it will get that buff and damage right here, making it 80 base power instead of 60, which again is still less than the 100 base power of Earthquake, but it means you won't take any Life Orb damage, so that's an option, of course. So in general, I'd say that Nidoking is a really good Pokemon to consider for drafting because of that wide move pool. It even gets things like Counter. Like, it just has so many random things that you can actually really use in a unique way to bring victory to your side. Endure is a nice thing to have, but so on and so forth. Like I was saying, it's just kind of nice to have these options. Obviously, since it's poison type, you can run Black Sludge on it, and it's got Poison Point if you are going to run a setup set and you want to just have the extra possibility for running a physical setup set to use that for Poison Point when making contact. You can get a 30% chance to poison Pokemon, so it's another option. I'd say Nidoking is a really good choice for those things. Now, Nidoqueen, I honestly prefer because of that bulk. It's always nice to have sweepers, but it's also nice to have bulky Pokemon that can be like tanks almost, and can also still really hit hard. So again, this is kind of just a setup set, like I was talking about before, but Nidoqueen's version, it can see, like I said, it hits that 300 stat range, so it's pretty cool. It's pretty nice to have those options. I think its bulk is what makes it more advantageous. The only downside is obviously if you're running it bulky, it's not going to hit nearly as hard, especially without that Life Orb. So it just, again, it really depends on what your team needs. And so this would just be another set. So this is the Modest I was talking about. It's 20 points less than, actually it's, what is it? Timid. Let's run Timid just for funsies. So we've got 269. So a Modest actually does slightly more damage than a Timid Nidoking. So, that's just something to consider. Again, this is just a bulkier version of Nidoking. It gets a couple other moves that I honestly can't remember at this moment that Nidoking doesn't get, but they both get Stealth Rocks. They both have Sucker Punch. Oh, I think Nidoqueen gets Super Fang, which is really nice to have when you're running a bulky set, whereas I don't think Nidoking gets it. That's correct. So that's one of the ones that Nidoqueen gets. It also just has, again, a wide move pool. It gets Pursuit, which that's the other one that Nidoking doesn't get. So having 2 extra moves that can actually be really useful is something to consider when drafting. Like I said, both of these Pokemon are really good options. Their typing is good, but obviously, they get run through by Psychic types and Water types. Ice is still something they have to worry about too. Let's see. Ground, ironically, is something they have to deal with as well. But obviously, it's something that you would draft as part of a team that can help balance out those answers to their weaknesses. So, like I said, they're wall breakers. They hit hard. They're very good, and Nidoqueen is the bulkier one, and it can still hit hard if you give it the Life Orb and run Max Modest, and they're going to be both slow pretty much compared to most other offensive Pokemon that you'll probably be drafting. So that's something else to consider. But Nidoking definitely hits harder, and it has more options when it comes to the damage it can put out physically or specially. So they just differ slightly. Honestly, I would give them both probably a solid B+. on our scale because they are really good, and this is not to say that they don't prove me wrong and I have to change this grade later, but honestly, Nidoqueen is really good and Nidoking is really good, but their weaknesses, and there's just certain ways that you can handle them pretty easily. The only, like, the strength is that nobody wants to switch into their attacks if they don't have immunities, because somebody's going to get hurt pretty bad even if they resist. So they're good. They have limitations due to their speed. Obviously without a life orb they're much weaker, so running Scarf, like, they have a lot of options, but it doesn't always work out to use those other options. So either way, I think that they're both really good and worth considering drafting. And you know, I know for a while, for last season, I really considered drafting Nidoqueen or Nidoking because they bring so much to the table, and I wanted something that could be kind of a multi-tool and hit, you know, fire bug types like Scizor and Forretress, or, you know, Ferrothorn with a flamethrower out of nowhere and just demolish it in one hit, because it would. Same thing with like Pokemon that are twice weak to ice attacks, and same with Thunderbolt with like Gyarados, or just Pokemon that he normally couldn't handle, like Skarmory. He would have an answer to two-shot it with. But regardless, like I said, B+ for both of them. They're both really good and worth considering for drafting. So that's all I've got for today, guys. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching, guys. If y'all enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like, and if you want, subscribe for more videos. Hope to see y'all in the future, and thank you for watching.